Bolivia has no coastline. It has a navy anyway.
Not a ceremonial unit, a force founded in 1963 that patrols rivers and Lake Titicaca while the country marks the Day of the Sea every March.
Its mission is not to defend a coast.
It is to keep alive the memory of 400 kilometers of Pacific shoreline lost to Chile in the War of the Pacific. That makes the Navy less a military branch than a national wound with engines.
Start with the wound, because everything else flows from it. Before the War of the Pacific, Bolivia's entire coastline lay in the littoral department. Chile conquered that department in the fighting between 1879 and 1883.
When it was over, Bolivia had lost 400 kilometers, 240 miles, of Pacific coast, and it has been landlocked ever since. This was not a minor border adjustment. It removed the country's only sovereign outlet to the sea, and it changed what Bolivia is. The demand to recover that lost coastline became a powerful national sentiment, not a fringe cause.
Schoolchildren are taught that regaining access to the sea is a patriotic duty.
That means the pressure is not just diplomatic, it is built into the way Bolivians are raised. The anger, the pride, and the sense of injustice are passed down in classrooms. That turns a 19th-century defeat into an open national wound that still shapes politics every March and every election cycle.
No peace treaty can fully close a wound that is taught as a duty.
That pressure needed a release. In 1963, Bolivia created a navy even though it had no coastline.
This was not an accident of bureaucracy or a joke.
The navy became a standing monument to the lost littoral. Every year, the Day of the Sea, Dia del Mar, turns the claim into public ritual. On that day, the fleet is not just a military branch, it is a national symbol. The date gives Bolivian politics a predictable moment to renew the demand for ocean access. Because the Navy exists, the claim never disappears from daily life. A river patrol boat can carry the same flag that once flew over the Pacific coast. A naval uniform can stand in for a coastline that no longer exists. That is the valve. Instead of a territorial dispute living only in foreign ministries, it lives in uniforms, parades, and school ceremonies. The nation cannot hold the sea, so it holds the idea of the sea. Every year, the ritual repeats, and the wound is kept open on purpose. Once the Navy existed, it needed a real job. Bolivia's rivers and Lake Titicaca gave it one. The Blue Devil Task Force, a Bolivian naval unit with law enforcement authority, now runs counter-narcotics operations on rivers and navigable waterways. Its mission is concrete: deny traffickers fluvial transport, make arrests, and seize cargo. That is a striking evolution. A force created to remember a lost sea now guards the waterways that remain. The same patrol boats that carry national symbolism also carry out law enforcement. This is where the Navy stops being only a monument. It becomes the operational arm of the Bolivian state on water, even if that water is fresh, not salt. The drug routes do not care about the lost Pacific. They run through the rivers and lakes that the Navy can actually patrol. So the mission is not nostalgia, it is current, and every seizure is a reminder that the force has a present tense, not just a past. That operational role gives the Navy a reason to exist that does not depend on recovering the coast. The memory does not stay in parades. Bolivia has repeatedly pushed the claim into international law. Diplomatic relations with Chile have been limited since 1978, when Bolivia broke ties over the territorial dispute. That is not a small detail. It means the two countries have spent decades without normal channels. The most intense legal bid came at the International Court of Justice. Bolivia argued that Chile was obliged to negotiate Pacific access. On October 1, 2018, the court rejected that bid by a 12-3 majority. It dismissed all 8 Bolivian legal arguments, and the ruling was final and binding. That was a legal crackdown on the dream. It closed the courtroom path, but it did not close the national feeling. If anything, the defeat sharpened the symbolism of the Navy. The fleet remains because the law is no longer the main arena, and the claim must live somewhere else. A court can decide sovereignty, but it cannot decide memory. And in Bolivia, memory is a political force. After the legal door closed, a practical door opened a little. In 2010, Peru granted Bolivia dock facilities, a free trade zone, and an option to build a Pacific Coast annex for its naval school. The deal runs for 99 years.
It does not restore sovereignty.
It is not Bolivian territory on the sea, and it does not erase the loss of 400 kilometers of coast.
But it gives Bolivian trade and training a physical Pacific foothold.
It is a safety valve that lowers the cost of being landlocked without healing the original wound. The Navy can train officers on the Pacific, but under Peruvian jurisdiction. So the memory project gained a practical outlet, even as the sovereign coast remained lost. The flag can reach the Pacific, but it arrives as a guest, not as a sovereign. That distinction matters. Bolivia is not closer to sovereignty, but it is less isolated than before. That is the wider context. The United Nations counts 32 landlocked developing countries. They face high transport and trade costs and structural development challenges because they lack direct access to the sea. Bolivia is one of them, but its response is unique. It maintains a navy founded in memory. The question is not whether Bolivia will regain the lost coast under current law. The ICJ has spoken.
The question is what the navy is for next.
It already fights drug trafficking on rivers. It already symbolizes a national demand on the day of the sea. The forward path may be to make the force a logistic security instrument, guarding the waterways and port corridors that reduce the high cost of being landlocked.
The memory will not disappear.
But the Navy is now defending access of a different kind, the practical access that landlocked countries need to survive in a global economy. If that happens, the Navy will defend not only a memory, but the arteries of a landlocked state.
So why does a landlocked country keep a navy? Because the coast is not just territory. It is a memory, and the navy is the institution that keeps it alive.
Every day of the sea renews the claim.
Every river patrol gives the force a present tense.
Every port deal with Peru gives it a future that is not sovereign but is real.
The lost coastline will not be restored by parades.
The ICJ has closed the legal route. But the Navy has already changed its role, from monument to river guardian, from memory keeper to law enforcement.
The next development to watch is whether Bolivia uses that river and lake force to cut the landlocked penalty, not relitigate the war. The sea remains lost. The memory remains defended.